No, no. And the reason I say no is because when you look at the Celtics, they got six guys that can score. And every time I look at the Knicks, they remind me of AI. You know, they got this one guy that does all the scoring, and everybody else does two or three things really, really good to make that pie whole. And if you take out Bridges, who's one of my favorite players, when they use him and he's able to score, they're a totally different team. But I just think the Celtics has too much firepower. And one of the things they don't talk about with the Celtics is you look at them, they got four good defensive players out there on that court. You know, and that's and we don't talk about that because we so caught up in all the threes they shoot. But you think about, you know, White, Holiday, even Brown, these guys are fucking good defenders. And so they got bodies to throw at Brunson with a short self. And so that's going to be hard. And, you know, going back to Brunson, the one thing that makes him really good is, this is going to sound really crazy, is left-handed players are always have that ability to get to the line and do things because you're not used to that. You hardly ever run across a left-handed player. You think about Manu Ginobili, who I played with. He was so good because you think he's about to do something with his right hand, like, oh shit, he's left-handed. By the time you think about it, it's too fucking late. He done changed you up. Because it's just not what you're used to. It's uncommon. But I just think I think the Knicks might win one game because they play hard. I think overall, I just think the Celtics, yeah, it's gonna be a gentleman's sweep, man. I just think this, like, if the Celtics stay healthy, you know, they've been getting a little banged up here and there, but I just think the Celtics are too good.
Yeah, because when you look at it, think about where they go. They got.
你问我的极简生活美学是什么？少一点存在感，就多了几分美感。Panasonic 隐藏型清净除湿机，实现你对美感的追求。少了湿气，多了干爽舒适。业界唯一双重除湿系统，快速除湿，迅速干爽，省电节能，长时间除湿也不用倒水。多种除湿模式，满足你的需求。Nano 健康科技，主动抑制霉菌。自在呼吸好空气，少了麻烦，多了贴心便利。快拆式滤网，装卸更方便，有效去除有害物质。多重安全防护，让生活便利又安心。少了不必要的，多了纯粹美好。这就是我的极简生活美学。想要极简舒适的美好生活。装潢时别少了它。Panasonic 隐藏型清净除湿机，一机打造极致舒适的居家空间。
Panasonic.
They got Derek White that can defend. They got Holiday that can defend. They got JB that can defend. They got big Horford that can defend. Porzingis can protect the paint. And then they bring Pritchard off the bench that can score. Hauser that can score. Cornette that can give you a little rebound. They're loaded. We know JT can defend if they have to, but he can score. JB can score. Derek White can score. They got scorers and they got defenders. So they're always going to have, at bare minimum, two quality defenders on the court at all times. And so when you have that, when you got two guys that can defend, but look what they start with. So if they start Holiday, you got Holiday, Derek White, JP, Al Horford.
Honestly, I'm gonna tell you this. I like the Knicks winning at least 3 games.
You got to win in 3 games?
I got to win in 3 games. I mean, hey, Raw, you want to bet something on it? You want to throw weight on it?
What do you want to bet?
Make it light on yourself. Bet 5,200.
You know, Anthony.
and if he can keep shooting from
that's very specific. Why you said
I'm just trying. I owe 5,200, so I'm trying to make it up some other kind of way. I'm trying to break me.
They talked a lot about.
Rob, let me ask you this: of all the game winners that you hit, what's your favorite one?
Lakers against the Kings.
When the ball came out to you, that game 7. Was that a game? That was game 7.
Yeah. No, it was game 4.
Game
4. You know, we lose that game, we go down 3-1. And the reason it's my favorite because if you look at most of my game winners, they were all done on the road. And so this one was done at home.
And you got a chance to rejoice in it with the crowd.
Yeah, I grew up a huge Lakers fan, man. I grew up a big Magic Johnson fan. You know, you would never being a Laker, you used to them chanting Kobe, or Shaq. You know, when you get a chance to knock down a big three and you hear them chant your name like that, man, it's the best feeling ever. I think for me, it's probably outside of Kobe's last game is the greatest moment in Staples / crypto. And every time I see the shot from above when I make it and the crowd just jumps up and cheers, I get goosebumps every time I see it. You know, even though I love what I did in 2005 against the Pistons in Game 5 when I lit their ass.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, it's something. You know, we all, as athletes, we all got that ego. We all got that pride. You want to hear them fans chant your name, but I tell you what, though, I only have like one picture up. I don't even have that shot up in my house, but I do have the picture of me making that shot against the Pistons because I just like looking at the faces of the people in the crowd. You got some people like, no. And you got one guy in the crowd like this, like, yeah, because he knew it was going in.
People, I don't know if people realize this, Rob, but before those black injuries, you were a high flyer. You was, you was punching on folks. You were up over the top. People look at you and they're like, man, all he did was shoot threes. No. When you came in, I don't know what it is about them Alabama guys, you and McKnight. All them guys had up, and away up. And I don't know if people realize that, but you were a high flyer, a 6'10" guy that finished above the rim. And then you turned yourself, I think it was the back injury, that you turned yourself in more of a shooter. You still could punch on folks, but not like you could when you first got to Houston.
No, it's so weird when you come in the league. Funny stories like my middle son. He came to me one time like, Daddy, you don't ever dunk anymore. You can't even dunk. And there's that one dunk in the playoffs against the Detroit Pistons that I dunked on Rip Hamilton when I took out outside the paint. And I said, see, your dad can still dunk. I just don't have to. But, you know, the weird part about it is when I got to the Lakers, they was like, oh, we don't want you to, you know, they said, we need you to spot up. And the worst thing as an athlete, any athletes listening is don't let coaches limit you in what you can do. And I think, you know, this day and age is a little bit different. Back then it was a little bit more, I need you to do this, and this. And so in my mind became, okay, this is what they want me to do. Spot up and shoot threes and all this kind of stuff. But I showed my youngest son, Christian, who's at UCLA. I said, let me show you something, man. Come sit down. And I'll show them my highlights of me in Rockets when I used to dunk. He looked at me like, damn, you had hops. I was like, yeah, I just stopped doing it. Because they didn't want, I didn't have room to do it because Shaq wasn't the damn way.
That's dope. Wow. Hey, Rob, some of those clutch shots you hit, did you ever keep any of the balls?
Outside Robinson.
Especially, I mean, you got some really good moments. And for me, I would want to keep those. I personally want to keep those balls. You don't have any.
You know, I have one from. It's actually the Game 7 ball against the Knicks. I have that, and the only reason I have that is because I told the guy, I said, because the first 2 points in Game 7 was me dunking on Patrick Ewing, and I was like, I want that ball. I want that ball, so I have that ball. And I wish I had the one I made against the Kings because, shit, if I bet it you and lost, I just sell that and get me a lot of money to cover that. So I know these Laker fans would love that ball.
But speaking of, you talk about balls and being able to sell a ball and get you a lot of money. Listen, I got a prized possession. That's what I meant to say. I'm supposed to have it enclosed in a case, right? But I got the game ball when LeBron hit his 50th point.
50,000.
Yeah, like listen, 50,000 points, and that's something that you would think he would keep.
Show him the signature.
Yeah, so it's a 50,000 point ball right there. You see 50,000 points, and LeBron signed it for
corner, no good. 1 second separating the shot clock and game.
Yeah, so I mean, if I ever fall on hard times, man, this here gonna come in handy.
If you fall on hard times and try to sell that ball, you gonna stay on hard times.
Exactly. You might end up on real hard times.
Greg Popovich
They'll put you in jail.
Greg Popovich stepped out as the coach of the San Antonio Spurs today, ending a nearly 3-decade run that saw him lead the team to 5 championships. He's the all-time winningest coach in NBA history, and he's a 3-time coach of the year, and he's a Hall of Fame, won a gold medal, and he's inducted to the Basketball Hall of Fame. Rob, you played for Pop. What was it about Pop that made him special? What's going to be your lasting memory of playing for Pop?
I think for me, it's just how genuine he was. And, you know, he was one of those coaches where he's one of those coaches where he'll yell at you and then take you to have some gnocchi and some wine. You know, his two favorite things. And for me, I think I tell this story all the time. The one thing that really made me fall in love with the guy was my daughter, who passed away, was really sick my last year with the Spurs, and she went into the hospital like at the beginning of the season, and he was like, "Don't come back until she's out of the hospital." And I sat in the hospital with her for like 3 weeks, and then she finally got out of the hospital. And I came back like a day after. He said, "She out of the hospital?" Like, "Yeah, she got home like 2 days ago." He said, "She ain't out of the woods yet. Go back home. You know, we don't really need you right now." And I looked at him like, "Are you trying to get rid of me on the side?" He said, "No, man, family first. You know, family first." And that's how Pop always was, man. You know, I just heard today about the story with DeMar DeRozan. His pops passed, and now it's like, and that goes to show you, you know, there's some things bigger than a freaking game, right? And Pop realized that. You know, he was always about, you know, spending time with your family, doing what's important. And I remember even my last year, I went to him and I was like, you know, I want to ask a favor. He's like, what? I said, it's my last year. I said, my son's on spring break, we're going on a road trip. Can I bring my son with me? He's like, man, yeah, don't even ask me a question like that. He said, this, you know, it's about the family. It's about doing things. And a lot of teams wouldn't let you do that, you know, because I remember the Lakers back in the day. You said, "Hey, can you get the flight back?" No, it's liability, you know, insurance thing. I'm like, "What? Is this a flight home?" What? So, but Pop was he was really good about, man. If it came down to your family, you do whatever's necessary for your family.
Everybody talks about the relationship that he had with Duncan, because I think Duncan was the linchpin. Because if you can coach Tim Duncan hard, you can coach everybody else hard. And Timmy was receptive. And that's what you have to do. Timmy was one of these superstars that if you didn't watch the game, you would never know he was a superstar. He didn't dress like a superstar. Hell, I remember he showed up to pick up an MVP trophy with flip-flops and shorts on. I'm like, David Stern probably wanted to swing on Timmy.
He had on jorts.
You remember that, Bob?
Yeah, he had on jean shorts.
Jean shorts and flip-flops. David Stern, like, hey, but that was Timmy. What was it about Coach Pop and Tim's relationship that made it so unique and special?
I think we're going to back this up a little bit, because you really have to credit David Robinson. Because you think about, he had David Robinson when Tim came, and David was like, "Yo, this is what we do here." And Tim just follows suit. You know, Tim is just that type of guy. He doesn't say much. You can talk. If you talk about cars, he'll talk to you. You talk about video games, he'll talk to you. You talk about poker. Those three things. If he don't talk about that, he ain't gonna really talk to you. For us, you know, it took me a year just to get him to say a couple words to me. But he is just he is a type of guy who's really focused. We don't, you know, we always talk about Kobe's work ethic. We talk about, but this dude was always in the gym shooting jump shots. You know, I'm always trying to perfect that bank shot, which we know he's famous for. Shooting a lot of free throws, because you know that was one of his downfalls.
One of his weaknesses when he came in.
Yeah, and he worked hard, but he was just if you talk about guys who, you know, I had to get on to him one time, like, dude, can you fucking yell at somebody, man? You sitting there like with your mouth closed, you know, you yell at someone, you're gonna be like, yeah, and everybody's gonna perk up and listen. So he was very mild-mannered. Well, he's mild-mannered, he didn't want to say much. But the guy was, he competed, and when he let you into his world, one of the nicest guys you'll meet.
You mentioned the Twin Towers because David Robinson was there, but when David was there, I mean, they won them championships with David. David was on the tail end of his career. That was I mean, basically a Tim Duncan team from the time he walked in the door.
Oh, he was, yeah.
He was just that good. And he was one of the last guys that was a true senior that was the #1 overall. Kenyon Martin was the last one, I think, in 2000. But Timmy was what, 98? I think the 98 draft was Timmy's first year. But he was the last of those guys that went 4 years of college and came out. So he was more than ready, more than prepared for the grind, because basically he was a grown man. He wasn't 18, he wasn't 17. Tim Duncan was a 22-year-old grown man when he got to the NBA.
See, you tell me something I did not know. I thought he came out early. You just so used to everybody coming out early, you know. Think about, and that's the one thing that I hate about the NBA. I know these dudes are freaking 21 when they get to college now, but I just wish that I'm about to say David Stern. that Adam Silver will put like 2 years onto it because these guys, you can tell by the way these guys play now. That's why so many threes are being shot because they don't know how to play. They doing what's easy, just taking the threes and not learning the game. You know, you got some guys that are going to come in the league that know how to play the game because of the upbringing and how they were taught. But it's just a lot of bad basketball being played because guys don't know how to play. You know, you think about tonight watching the game, like, dude, the first thing you learn in high school and college is how to beat the damn zone. The zone is the easiest freaking thing to beat, and you can't beat a zone. It's like go to the open spots, go to the dunk spot, go back door. And it just shows you right there that the guys aren't learning anything because they all just trying to, get to the next level to the league without learning something.
Rob, you played with some of the greats. I mean, you was on a team with Tim Duncan. You was on a team with Shaq and Kobe. You was on a team with Lot, Dream, and Drexler. And I know people ask you, what the difference between Dream and Duncan, the difference between Duncan and Shaq, the difference between Clyde and Kobe. What are some of the different? Look, all of those guys that I just mentioned are all 75 greatest players in NBA history. MVPs, Finals MVPs, Defensive Players of the Year. When you got to the Rockets, what was it about the Dream that you know? Okay, this guy's special. What set him apart?
Oh shit! I knew Dream was special when I watched him in high school. I mean college, because when I was coming out, I said I want to play alongside this guy. You know, I was praying that I went to the Rockets, and God willing, I did, because you could just see his work ethic. You know, you watched him. You know, guys always talk about going into the lab. Dream would be in the lab and we didn't even know it. He would be working on stuff, and then he'll just all of a sudden get in the game. You know, you think about '95 how he annihilated David.
Yeah, because he said they took his MVP from him.
Yeah,